We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Randy, very much. Really appreciate that. And we welcome Councilmember Extra. We have one item on the consent agenda, and that was the audit committee meeting minutes. And James, did you get those out?
I saw them.
You saw them? Okay, for those who saw them,
I would propose that we accept the minutes as they are.
I would second. Okay, a motion is second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? All in favor of approving that motion, please say aye.
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 Okay, and John, do we have anyone online?
Not anymore. We did have someone. Councilman Dalpaz was watching, but he probably jumped off for technical
We
reasons.
realized that the cookies can't be.
Yeah.
Virtually.
He's on his way
He's
down.
way down. Yeah.
All right, and we'll move on to item number 2. And John, if someone does join us, please let us know. Public comments. Anyone have any comments this evening that they'd like to share with us?
Chris, as the public, would you like to represent?
The mayor and I talked with John about some stuff, just some of the things that
Sir,
just,
could you state your name and your?
Chris Polver, North Ogden, sorry.
Thank you.
About certain parts of the whole budget thing here. Let's see, quickly, where do the numbers come from when you're talking about assets? How we're repaying the debt that we have on the public safety building. Just the big thing in the central sewer is kind of push the Weaver County Central folk to be more nice and give us some credit for what we're doing with the sleeving. What was the other thing? Oh, making sure that we're listing all the all the products and the projects and the capital projects list. Dealing with the new water meter things that we'll have to do. What was the other thing? Oh, just that the department's heads have some authority to move some money around, not too crazy, from their specific JNs. I don't know what do you call them? The numbers, each number.
GLs.
What's that?
GL?
GLs, but nothing crazy. And we chat a little bit about charities, which I'd like to maybe chat more with you, just try to figure out what it means, at least in this thing. So that's it.
Maybe just briefly to expand on that, Chris's question was, what is the city's intention in regards to the outstanding bond? Both, we have 2 tranches, one for $6,750,000 and one for $2,750,000. Both of them have original 20-year terms. The actual interest rate on the first tranche of $6.7 million is 1.98%. The other tranche, the $2,750,000, has, I think it was 2.8% average interest rate.
It's looking pretty good.
But there's a lot of tranches in there. They're callable bonds actually, but if you want to pay those off, you have to pay off the low interest rate bonds first, the shorter term. And on the 6.7 million, I think the first tranche was 50 basis points and the second was 80. So my response to Chris was basically, as long as we can reinvest our funds at a higher rate than what we're paying on the bond, there's really no use of paying that off. So we will watch those closely. If we ever get in a substantial negative position and have the funds to pay those off at the time, then we would surely look at it. But at this point in time, the intention is to let it run its.
Looks like it'd be hard to get into a negative position with these low rates. We'd have to get
That
down.
really surprises us and drops interest rate.
So, we'll run that. And then Chris's other thing was on the assets, and I explained to him that we do have a fixed asset register that details all of the fixed assets and, when they were purchased, what the basis is, et cetera. So then we'll get with Chris on some of the other detailed things here. He was really excited to explain footnote 9. So a little later. So.
That's my favorite.
Any other public comments? If not, then Jamie, I'm thinking you and Ben would like to give us some oversight here on our audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30th of 2023.
We don't have our auditor on?
No, Ron's not on yet.
Okay. Well. I know I just emailed this out just yesterday afternoon, so I don't know if you've had a chance to review much, but in the audit, I'll just go over just a few things. I don't know if you have anything you want to start off by saying. Not yet. I just want to be really thankful to Ben, helping on putting this together. So a lot of work on this. I just want to start off on page 4, the actual audit. I'll be into the financial highlights. And just talk about our total net position that we increased 11.4 million, which is good news. Basically, correct me if I'm wrong, basically what that says is that we have our assets that are over our liabilities, so our liquidity is good, basically. We're able to meet our ongoing obligations. So.
And Jamie, could I just add to that? So nobody thinks we're really piling up the money. Most of that increase is contributions of infrastructure from developments that took place in the city. I mean, we did have some excess revenues over expenses in our general fund, but the major increase in that is contributions from developers upon the completion and acceptance of the city of their projects.
Sure. And just as a side note, take a moment when you can and look at page 14. That's really going to explain more about how the net position comes about. And what that does is it will net the program revenues against expenses and give you a quick rundown about how we reached that 11.4 million. So that is on page 14. Kind of takes a few minutes to kind of internalize it and understand what that statement is saying, but that's a good one to study. I know. I just wanted to continue because he mentioned it. So back on page 4, I do want to talk about the general fund unassigned balance. We ended the year at 3.5 million. And I know underneath there, it does say that it's a percentage of 41%, but that is because it's a number against the expenditures. The actual percentage is 31% fund balance. So we did increase our fund balance for the year to 31%. The state maximum is 35.
Just a little color on that.
Just
too. When
under.
we did the public safety building and tried to round up as much cash as we could, so we had to borrow as little as. We took that down to 16%. We do have an internal floor we've set at 15%. We don't want to drop below that, but the council will be faced with the fact that we really want to have 31% there. So they'll make that determination after the first of the year. Even though we have a 35% by statute, we probably have other uses for those funds other than the city general fund.
I didn't get why it's really 31 and it says 41.
So this is a percentage of the total general fund expenditures. But really it's on page 30 and 31 where it talks about fund balances. That number is actually calculated on the current period revenues. And so instead of expenditures, then this number reflects expenditures. So when we take that 3.5 against the revenues, it's 31. It's like 31.31%.
What this is telling us basically is if we had zero revenues and continued on with our current expenses, we'd have about 5 months of operating. The statute then is on revenues of 10% of revenues.
Does the statute have a floor?
I don't think so. I think
Well, I read
Is it
that.
5?
Okay, yeah,
I didn't.
that would have been my guess. And Not making that up. I actually read that.
Otherwise, the mayor wouldn't sleep at night.
Mine's a little low.
Yeah.
I think that was really all that I had. If you- Oh, and then, I did want to call out on page 51, way in the back. This one talks about the actual general fund budget, the revenues and expenditures, and it goes, and it talks about, what the final budget was, the final adopted budget, and what actuals were, and how we, came to that. To the excess over revenues, number. I think it was like a million, right? Yeah. It was $1 million that we did revenues over expenditures. However, please keep in mind that that doesn't include B and C road funds, which are restricted. And so at the bottom there, it says fund balances are the 3.9 million. But it does, like you said, it does include the B and C road funds. And so when we take out the B and C road funds, that's how we get to the 3.5 million or the fund balance there.
So actually, we were $1 million under,
Mhm.
$1,000,001 under what we budgeted, and you increased the budget, but you still didn't spend it. Now, why did we increase the budget and then didn't need it?
Well, we had about, was it about? I want to say it was about, I have to take out that number. I want to say it was about 900,000 more in revenues than we expected. But this number kind of throws it off, because we did receive more taxes and South tax money. What else was there?
Jamie, I think the big one here
Our
is that
revenues.
non-departmental and expenditures, the 642,000 that we.
So yes, but if you look at the top, it reflects it up top as well, saying that we didn't receive that 614, and that was that grant money we were anticipating for the flood. So that kind of offsets.
Yeah,
It's
so-
not exact, but it kind of offsets that number.
So the budgeted
We did.
revenues were fairly close to what we looked for.
Yeah, we had more tax revenue that came in, and then departments just didn't spend their budget. The big outlier there is parks, but a lot of that was staffing. I know that we couldn't get a lot of staffing, that 131,000. Or I know that they struggled getting seasonals. So there was
Now we
about
know where we
100.
can save, huh, Chris?
Well, if we want our.
If we went on our
so
parks to
we're
go
like-
down to
I was
groups.
gonna say,
We
hopefully,
can't do that too
I
many
mean,
years in a row.
people just do it, just so it's like, well, angry citizens calling, saying, why my park look terrible?
I think so, and finance, you had trouble filling that position for a while, but now it's filled.
Yeah, and finance and then planning, yeah, we didn't fill those positions until later on. It was about September-ish.
No, we're not over budget. That's good.
That is a good thing. You have anything else to
You're
add?
gonna mention that clean opinion there.
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh.
Robert was
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to say there were no findings.
No exceptions.
I was looking at page 7 and 8 and just note some things and see if you had comments on them. So we were in a total net position, we were up 10%. Is that what you were saying earlier, that we were? Or is that a different? We're up $10,000 or so there in the top graph. And then revenues, we were 97% up in capital grants and contributions. These are some big numbers in revenue. 27%, 28% up in property taxes. 469% up in other, whatever that is. That's
So what page are you on?
7. In other words, we did, I mean, we were 29% up in total revenue. That's phenomenal. How did we do that?
Well,
I mean, either,
Low ballers.
yeah, you really did.
let me see here.
I mean, that's,
I mean, if we had a.
I wonder
crystal
if we
ball-
should be
Property
cushioning them that
values.
much. That's not very accurate. I mean, it's nice to have that cushion, but
It
it's not
would
very
be
accurate.
lovely if we could be more accurate, but we try to be really conservative, so then when we,
So
it
our,
comes in different, because we don't control any of it. The state gives us how much they're gonna give us in sales tax. The county determines how much they're going to assess property values and, the rate.
Well,
and
we
can say,
we
well,
determined that too.
Well, a little bit, but.
We raised taxes. right?
We can raise the percentage, but what the actual assessments of the properties come in,
Right.
that's
Those are kind of.
them.
Yeah, but you
So-
usually guess better than 29%, 28%.
it depends on
We
the
hope.
number that you're using, because like in taxes, just in taxes alone, which includes property tax, sales tax, utility
Yeah, all of
revenue, all that, we were 4.5% over budget, which was $358,000.
Which
So
number is that?
just taxes alone, just
Oh.
in general fund taxes alone, was just 4.5%, but the amount was 358,000.
I think he's looking at the increase from the actual
So-
fiscal year to fiscal.
Yeah, it just seems
Yeah.
like it's not very
Well,
close to what
okay, so
we,
when you look at built licenses and
Last
permits, so
year,
I,
this
so
is-
what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to break it down.
Yeah.
When we look at licenses and permits, it was only 5% over. budget.
this isn't over budget, actually. This is over last year.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, and it's.
And home values have gone up significantly over the last couple of years. I would imagine that your revenues in there from property taxes took a big jump because of that.
Oh, yeah.
That probably includes the RDA fund, because to Randy's point, we did not increase property taxes 700 on thousand.
It was
you would-
500,
Yeah, you wouldn't have had to,
546, I wanna say.
Because we took of course, it was 3%
24.
last year, and it was 24 the year before. But
Yeah,
our
it was-
expenditures
it
went
was-
up dramatically. That's the year we were hit with
It was quite
massive
an.
inflation.
Plus
On the next
many-
page on
you wouldn't,
8,
you wouldn't have had to have increased it, right? Just the increase in the property values would have brought you in more at the same rates.
Well,
Did
That's the
did
problem.
you reduce rates?
we're only entitled to get the same dollar amount exclusive of growth. So if the assessed value goes up, they'll lower
They
the
lower the
mill
rate.
rate. And then we have to have a truth in taxation hearing if we change that.
Okay,
We need actually more
scratch that.
dollars to come from property tax.
You have to. raise
We
it.
have to raise the rate. So it's kind of obnoxious. how
if we
it
go,
is.
if we go to page 8, our expenditures were wild. Public safety, 26% up. Streets and roads, 34% up. Economic development, 267% up.
What's included, refresh our memory, what's in economic development again, Jamie, if you recall. 'Cause that does look, what do we? put
It's
in
not a
that
big
number?
amount, but it's a big percentage.
So that would be planning and zoning. And plan checks, zoning and subdivision fees, plan checks and annexation.
And those were costs. We have.
I see. I wonder if that one should say planning, but I bet you that's just planning and. Let me see here. I think that one is just planning.
Water, sewer, and solid
That
waste
one would
were
be
all
because
up
we
to about
moved
15% or
To
so,
a full-time position.
16%.
So I'm curious as to why our planning and zoning, because didn't we lose a planner that we didn't have filled for a while? So I'm trying to figure out what that cost is.
This is the RDA.
Oh, it is already.
So whatever.
Expenses overall were up 17%.
So I have the projects for 382. Didn't we buy, what did we do? That was the ground over here, didn't we, that we put dirt on? Raise the elevation.
Oh, the expense for the Nelson's frozen
Nelson's,
custard. That was an RDA expense in that.
If I was running a business, this would be a huge increase year over year. I'd be wanting to see why. And it's passed now, but I think it maybe could reflect as we do the budget this next year to make sure that we're just not having runaway expenditure like this. Just
So-
my observation.
And you're right, Randy. One of the, like, public safety is one of those that's including the bond payment,
Okay, that
And
explains that one.
salaries, and then the reversal on the motor pool. And
And
so,
remember, we're still catching up from the fact for years. No funds were accumulated in the motor pool funds.
Mhm,
That's where they created a thing called unfunded depreciation.
mhm.
So when we have to renew, we run through these cars 5 a year. So we've had to adjust that up. Depreciation is probably what, $250,000 a year now or more?
Yeah, yes, and I'm happy to say, so in fiscal year 2020, we were like at $66,000 just in cash, and then this year we rounded out to be 46. So
Because
those
you gotta have the
3
money
years
to buy
really
those
built
vehicles,
it.
right?
Yeah.
So that hadn't been charged. So a lot of that is catch up in comparison numbers. And I'll tell you, I ran a business, a multi-billion dollar business. And I never saw the inflation that we saw this past year, particularly in public safety. Officer salaries, and I've said this many times to county and state officials. The real problem this country faces is who's gonna police it. Because with all the growth we're taking, so public safety salaries and benefits substantially. So when you're talking about increase of 9 or 10%, you can almost double that in public safety because everybody's trying to steal everybody's. So I think public safety is explainable.
Now, the biggest problem is public safety, we don't necessarily have in this town, and that's people's attitude towards it, and nobody wants to do it because nobody thinks they're heroes anymore. We don't look that way, so I think we don't at least have that problem where big cities are having trouble hiring them because nobody
Everybody is.
respects them.
Well, I was in the police department the other day and there was this 23-year-old kid using every word I've ever heard in the book. In one of the offices, it took 3 officers to escort him out of the building. He'd come to pick up the stuff that had been confiscated when he was arrested for evading police and having drugs and paraphernalia in his car, and he wanted it all back. And they said, well, you don't have prescriptions for those drugs. He goes, yeah, I do. He says, I self-prescribe.
Yeah,
But he was, I couldn't believe it.
attitude.
So it's the attitude is getting the streets and roads. That's another.
Yeah,
what's-
34% on for streets and roads.
What's in
What would it
streets and
cost that?
roads?
so that was the end of our
Oh,
widening
Up
project.
the street.
And then the other thing, and that it'll probably go down, although it's a higher than normal year, the current year, is that we ended up, because we were being slow on spending our BNC road funds, we actually are spending more than normal. So now I'm ahead 12 months, so ignore that. But these are good questions, Randy. So don't think that we're just ignoring you.
Well, I don't want to harass everybody,
No.
but I just think for looking at next year, yeah.
And this is
Go
the,
on 2 or 3 years in a row like that.
Yeah.
I would think, yeah.
and this is the point, is that we want to be able to explain it so that people can understand, hey, this is why it's hard to read a 70-page document for most lay people. So we want to explain it so residents can watch this video and hear it.
Well, and I also want to bring it up and really look, you highlighted it, you have questions, you're looking at it. So that way, when someone else comes in and says, hey, what about this? You have some explanation. I'm really grateful that you've done it. Go ahead, Jim, sorry.
More
No,
questions and explanations, but.
That's okay. The explanations are what, you help
Yeah.
come from the question.
Well, and I also want to point out too, it's interesting when you're running a city, and I mean, I know it's different than running a business because usually in the business it's almost like clockwork depending on your line of work, right? But things change happen so quickly within a city that that's why we also have to adapt the budget every year to year to year because it changes so quickly. And to keep up on everything, I think is It's not like it's unattainable, but the expectation of it being, we don't want to just, we don't want to get into the habit of incrementally just adjusting it, by inflation a little bit here and here and here. Well, we want to do that here and here and here, but then we also don't want to do these jumps. And so it really is an art, right?
It is.
It really is an art. So
Even
I
in the
don't want it to be
private
like,
business is the same
why
thing. It's
is
an
it
art.
30% this year and then last year it was 5% and, 49 this year and because
Yeah.
I wish I had that
Takes
answer.
estimations. That,
It really does. It's an art. It's an art.
And with Jamie's help, we've been, Jamie and the council have been very conservative in their revenue estimates. Because with what's been going on with inflation stuff, we've just kept thinking like it's gonna crash, it's gonna drop, it's gonna move. And so that's another reason why our expenditures in a lot of categories seem low compared to the revenues, because we've been trying to be conservative in our revenue
we're blessed with this
estimates.
beautiful little city that we're prospering.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I think 2 out of the 4 months we received, our sales tax has been below last year's collections, above budget. But sales tax has been 2 out of the 4 months, slightly below what we collected last year. So
You're 5% up for the year.
I think we're starting to, well, this is this year. So to his question, anticipating what's gonna happen
Next year. Yeah.
with revenue, so our sales tax revenues for fiscal year 24, 2 out of the 4 months that we received funds for have been.
Oh, already this fall or whatever, yeah.
But Jamie, maybe also if you just touch on it for them, the other category under general revenues, where it was $1,391,000 this year. And the capital grants and contributions,
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm on page 7
Seven at
still.
the bottom.
Just so they have a sensation for. So if you look at, like, for instance, general revenues other, last year they were 271,000, this year they're $1,391,000. If you look at, capital grants and contributions, if you look like the business type entities, 3,089,000 versus 1,101,000.
Yeah, that was 97%.
So I think that would be, on an analytical review basis, it'd be nice to explain that.
Where did the capital grants come from?
Well,
Yeah, those are big
I always
numbers.
get years confused. Is this ramp grant year? Was the ramp grants granted?
Yes, there was like 400,000 in rent grants.
Those are the funds we get. I think this last round, we got 1.1 million from the user taxes that our citizens pay on the ramp deal. And if you don't have the answer now, I think it would be worthwhile to
I can never have this group because I don't know.
just send it out, because those are substantial, increases.
In private reports, you always get percentages on everything. The government thing, that's like we don't. I had to calculate these percentages. Percentages kind of catch your eye a lot quicker than just numbers. All of a sudden you say, "Ooh, that's a little." Or look,
But there's a danger in percentages because you can get caught in a percentage, like, oh, this is a huge percentage, it's only like
well, you need
$12.
both.
You know what I mean? So it's like you really want to look at
Sure.
amounts,
this is
dollars that you take to the drinkers.
I apologize.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
This isn't a managerial report, though. This is a financial statement, and the formats in the financial statements are pretty well defined. But I'm sure Jamie would have other ones that would give us that we go over, but I don't know about yours, Jamie, but my financial statements the formats are very fixed.
Yes,
And
yeah, that's what I have. So that's what I was referring to earlier when I was saying, well, it's only 5%, but that was according to the budget, right? So I would have to actually create the document to show you year over year with the percentage.
Well, I just wanted to call attention to it. I know we were going to solve it tonight, but
Those good questions.
No problem, huh?
Let me look again.
No, okay. I think he's in a good mood.
And when you look at the expenses like on sewer, Randy,
Mhm.
all the mayors that, serviced by the Central Weaver Sewer District sit on that board, and because of environmental issues,
Mhm.
we've had to increase the property tax. You'll see that on your property tax notice, but also the charges to the city have been substantial increase. With our solid waste, we had a provision in there with Republic. There's a built-in inflationary figure, which fortunately we capped because they're facing the same thing everyone else is, higher wages, hard time finding.
A lot of those aren't our controllables, I guess, are they?
Well, there's a certain percentage of it, but in the sewer, a lot of that is the fact that the fee set by Central Weaver Sewer District. Substantial there.
Solid waste, is that contractual?
Yeah, that's
So
Republic.
can you have escalators in there?
Yeah, what the cap is at 4%, John?
It's between 3 and 5% so 5 is the cap. Or 2 and 4%.
It's, as you recall, Pleasant View's hauler, just said in the middle of their deal, towards the end of the contract, oh, we're not gonna collect your garbage anymore.
Why?
They quit, huh?
So Republic, yeah, they had to find a new hauler pretty quick.
Hmm.
And of course, then they start paying what the real rate is, right? Because they got a new contract. Maybe Jamie, you could look at those, on the general revenues, the significant increase in grants and what the grants and contributions are under the revenues. Those are pretty substantial.
Yes, I think the other was interest earnings.
Yeah, because the other at the bottom includes interest earnings and the gain on sale of assets. The interest is way up because there's that new bond issuance that had in the escrow account for the whole year.
Yeah,
Plus
see,
the
the
interest rates.
interest on long-term debt, is that the one, or is that included in public safety? I don't know how you group those.
It's on page 14. Shows the detail. Bottom of general revenues. So starting with the unrestricted investment earnings, that's what those are.
Governmental activities.
No, it's at the bottom under general
Yeah, I'm sorry, interest income was up substantially over the prior year because of rates too, on the earnings side. I'm looking at the revenues here, the general revenues.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, that's where those come from.
Yeah, I didn't think we had over $1 million increase in earnings, though. If you look at that, I don't wanna, hammer it, but if you look at our governmental activities, in 2023, other revenues were 1,391,000. And the prior year, they were 271.
Which page are you on, Mayor?
7.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, so the interest wasn't 963,000 last year. It was considerably less than that. And that's part of that number.
And the other, so you've got interest income in there.
Yeah.
Under governmental activities, because if we're saying that, then we've got another increase of $522,000 in business type activities. Under other.
And the 373 in business type, that wasn't that much last year for interest.
So we're at 522. I didn't think our interest income was up $1 million in the general. Oh, it's because we had all the bond funds. We haven't dispersed all the bond funds yet.
Yeah, that was 97% increase. So that's what I assumed, that if we had that money, it's stoked away.
Came out pretty sweet.
Yeah, we lucked out on that one. We didn't luck
You
out, you
got
guys
in-
were
you
smart.
got in at the right time and that,
You
then
guys
so-
were smart.
yeah. Well, it would be lovely to take credit for that, but mostly it was just,
And then John,
The
just
timing.
to understand on the streets and roads, the increase from 2.4 to 1 point, from 1.8. That was finishing up the widening of the road here. Our final payments on that.
Yeah, that project was $3.6 million. And so I believe the majority of the came after July 1st of 2022,
Because we had $2.4 million this year.
right?
That was probably finishing that
'Cause-
up.
That project spanned 2 fiscal years.
Right.
So I would expect that because we don't have another major project this current year, that expense is going to drop down to less than $1 million for this coming year.
Okay, do you have any communications from you need to make to us as required by your auditing standards?
Not for me, since I didn't do the audit, but
I didn't see anything in here in regards to adjustments passed or anything like that, that I didn't see in here.
no, I think he had one entry that we just made.
Yeah, that was for the bond interest, the 41,000. Is that the one we were,
No, it was for, like a reversing a payroll.
because there was a finding in here that said we were $41,000 over in our,
So that was last year's. That was last year's.
oh, was the
finding.
last year's finding? Sorry
It
about
said
that.
raise.
All right, anything else? Questions? Those are good questions. But it's been really interesting, the last 4 years. I mean, this is probably the year, John, we had 400 building permits in 1 year during the low interest rate pandemic timeframe.
And now,
We thought a busy year was 140, John,
Yeah, 140 was our previous highest year.
400. So, you have to, in addition to the inflation, you had to see the growth we had in the city that we were trying to keep up with.
Yeah.
It's been interesting.
it used to have it a little more even every year after year, wouldn't it?
Well, it's pretty slow right now. Pretty
What are,
slow.
what are we at so far?
We're right at 26%. Oh, no, that was at the end of September. I think right now we're at 38.
Of what we estimated?
Mhm.
You know how many we've issued off the top of your head, John?
For new homes, I can pull it up real quick, I think. Wrong drive.
Well, Ben, you probably can't answer this. I wish our auditors on, because I was asking this when we were on the phone with Chris. Our net pension liability in government activities went from 0 to $1,047,000. And generally, when interest rates are rising, your liability goes the other way.
It does,
I was just wondering, I know that probably
especially
comes-
with that discount rate at 6.85.
Yeah, so I was a little bit curious as I saw this, why our net pension liability,
How can it go from 0? What is that?
that's the question.
Well, it was an asset last year, now it's a liability.
What was the asset last year? Because that would mean we went substantially underfunded probably in the plan,
I was actually gonna ask that question.
but it's controlled by URS.
Well, and that's my question. Do you mind if I pose my question?
No, that's perfect.
I know we talked about this a little bit last year. And I know that we participate with the state in that, and they do the accounting and the actuarial work and those types of things, and then give us our portion of the expense and the funding that we have to provide as a city. In that process of that, state funds, I don't know what Utah's fund is as far as its funded position, but state funds are notoriously underfunded, and which is an off-the-book liability, I guess. In a for-profit business, you have to recognize that in your retained earnings as other comprehensive income. I'm wondering have we quantified if we have a liability there that is, because I think last year when we talked about this, the answer was that we're not required to recognize that funding in the financial, that funding level in the financial statements of the city. Is that correct? have we ever quantified what that would be if we were needed to do that? I'm just curious what that liability is doing.
10 years ago, when I served on the governor's commission, and they changed how pension plans were in the state. State was $6 billion underfunded, 6 billion. I understand they made some recovery there, but the only thing I can think of is there's some change in reporting, because
Now, I don't see a mention of it in here.
I know, but how would it go from being an asset to 1 point?
Oh, yeah, that's another thing, because I would think with the increase in interest rates, which started, fall of 2022, and the majority of that had happened by the end of our fiscal year. And with those discount rates going up by especially 6.85, I mean, that's an incredible discount rate for this, and for that asset to flip the other way, I guess I don't understand how it did that.
I mean, some of the boards I'm on,
It's
the
going,
funding went from 90% to 105%.
yeah, well, and we flipped the opposite direction at my company. We had a net pension liability, and for the last 2 years, we've had an asset now because of the
Yeah,
rates.
see, ours is going the opposite way, so I know you guys don't have the answer. We'll see if we
Yeah.
can do it from the auditor.
And I know we're following the guidelines and the regulations from the state, but
They're sending us the info.
So
that's counterintuitive.
It is.
Yeah,
But
there's
this-
something to say there.
I just wanted to answer the question from earlier.
What is
So
how many?
27 new homes and 48 apartment units.
Okay.
So which we do typically group together in that 400 number is
Okay.
connected units. So 75 total through the end of November.
Yeah, that's a substantial decrease, isn't it?
Well, it maybe put us on par with 150 to 180 units, depending.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
The other thing the state's got going for it is their assumption for long-term rate of return is 6.85, and I haven't seen even,
That hasn't happened.
yeah, even in the current environment, I don't see that in the actuaries I even. So that's not a reflection of Jamie's work or the report, but those are numbers that I worry about, I guess, with a state-funded plan. Thank you, Jamie.
Okay, any other questions? Good questions. We could follow up with those, Jamie. Those questions and just shoot out answers to them. That would be good. I think the important thing is there were no major findings and we got a clean audit report. So it's helpful.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It was. How many years ago was it? It was such a mess. Was
Two.
it 2 years ago? Oh, what would
Yeah,
the worst
yeah, I
Quite a
remember-
turnaround.
And then when the other said that the North Ogden should have a qualified opinion for the last 4 years of the loan, or 8.
Mhm.
But I think Jamie's got it squared away, so. Jamie, did you have anything you wanted to discuss with us on the quarterly financials?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
That's a question there. Who's the chair? It's usually,
I pretended to be.
okay,
chair.
yeah. I didn't want to address this to the wrong individual. Past, we've had the auditors here. Okay,
That's what they were giving them a call.
They-
yeah.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be on Zoom
Yeah.
at least
okay.
and
So
didn't
that,
connect.
okay.
Yeah, because there's certain communications you have to make to us. So, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised there.
They've been so good. Or
Yeah,
is
that's
this-
what
or
I
is
was
this a
saying,
new
I
one?
think that,
You know.
that everything's
And there's no
okay.
snowstorm. to-
Yeah.
Keep going. Can't use that one.
Okay,
Okay. So we're looking at first quarter of 2024. And we have one of these, right? Chris, you want an updated copy?
Does it look updated from?
Updated from the other day, yes. Yes. So overall, For first quarter, I think we look pretty good. General fund is always low, just because of how revenues fall through the year. We did receive our property tax in December, so next time that number will be up for the general fund. Product Center is up quite a bit, just because their season is Memorial Day through Labor Day, which straddles that fiscal year. And so the majority of their season does start in the beginning from like July to September is basically the core of their season. So the enterprise funds, the water fund, the sewer, storm, and solid waste seem pretty even. Solid waste is up a little bit because we ordered trash cans last fiscal year, but didn't get them until this fiscal year. And so that's why that number is up.
So the expenses are
Recognized in this year.
paid.
And that's in solid waste.
That's in solid waste. The storm fund, or excuse me, the sewer fund is up a little bit. It's up to that 30% because we did do the, call it the SLRAD.
Did we learn something?
That's the,
It's the acoustic of the sewer line.
yeah. It's a service that we have. It's a service that's provided, and they actually came in and did it a little bit early this year. So I'm not exactly sure what they do besides camera.
So they
TV.
send an acoustic signal from one manhole to the next, and it detects the amount of material that's built up. If it surpasses an allowable amount, they tell us, and the city goes and cleans it. It's in order. It helps us to basically make the helps the sewer department with limited staffing. This was able, I think, to offset the cost of a whole nother employee.
And just for your information on the aquatic fund, they will be giving back increase in the fees there. The shortfall has been being paid out of the RDA monies we collect. That's not gonna go on forever, so we need to break that in, otherwise the money starts coming out of the general fund. So.
Yeah, so we are working on a
Increase.
break even analysis thing, and then we will be coming to the council with that hopefully in January. All right, general fund revenues by departments, the next slide. So this is what is telling us what makes up that 18%. The general tax, like we said, we don't have much in property tax, but we have received, this is 3 months of sales tax in there, which at that time, I believe we were set just slightly under 8% over budget. Our licensing and permits are on target. Central governmental revenue, this one's low because we only get 6 B and C road payments, and so this only includes 1. Charges for services are up because we've had a lot of excavation permits. I believe that is to do with the fiber that has been going on, is coming into the city. Fines and forfeitures, although miscellaneous revenues.
Would that include donations?
No, that one, does that one include donations? Can't remember. That's so much going on. Miscellaneous, so that, miscellaneous, sorry, so that one is, we actually have a lot of, requests for police reports. And so that number just gets so whacked. It doesn't matter how much I budget, it's always wrong. We never know who's gonna come in and ask for reports and things from the police department. Copies, things like that. And then we also have miscellaneous revenue. That's coming in. And then our interest earnings are a little bit higher than expected. And then our grants and transfers in, that one doesn't include the donation. But that donation, so it says it's 14%, includes a $50,000 donation that we received. However, that one should be moved to capital projects. So that'll be a budget amendment
Just the person.
when we do that.
What's the what?
The parks one, is that what you're talking?
Yeah, this is.
Yeah,
the
that one was
pickleball court.
the pickleball court,
So was that a cash?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah, the labor, the sweat labor part got backed out, so.
Oh,
So we kind of
Cash is
have a
king.
citizen give us a $50,000.
That was one contribution.
And there have been other contributions as well.
Okay.
These are
So-
the committee-
Yeah.
They put their name on it.
There was a large single donor contribution, yes.
Yes,
I
that is
think
a
the committee raised
serious
about
pickleball enthusiast.
So the committee for the pickleball group raised about, was it 8,500, John, somewhere around there?
Yeah, it was 5 and I know they've still been out raising money.
So that's due to be done when?
This next year,
Are you-
you will be playing pickleball by Christmas next year.
Oh, my goodness, okay. Not for the summer then.
He
huh?
says Christmas, I say cherry days.
That'd be better.
Potato time.
Yeah, I don't want to miss the first season.
General fund expenditures. So the black line represents the 25% mark. And for the most part, all departments are under. And for that non-departmental, that one just seems to always get us right with that liability insurance. And then recreation is up. We did have, I think early on, we were purchasing items for basketball a little bit early before the season, which doesn't start until later, till the next quarters, and then also football. So that one comes out a little bit. Finance is low just because we were understaffed. Same thing with planning. Yeah. Any questions?
Up at the amphitheater, that equipment that they have there, is that our new installation or is that somebody's? In other words, they have nice speakers and lights and everything. Is
Oh,
that,
yeah,
is that ours?
Are they using our new stuff? that's-
Most of the new stuff is not live yet. Bryce has been helping take the lead on that. I should let him answer the question.
It's not quite live yet, but it should be soon.
You are multi-talented, Bryce.
I think our city should be proud of what's going on up there this week. That's a major event and people look kindly on us all over. I hear.
I'll wait.
The next slide is the first quarter 3-year comparison. So this is just looking at the last 3 years' first quarters. And it's gonna be pretty even. Seems like we do the same old thing, all right, year after year after year.
Yeah.
So the one to the left is the revenue, and the one to the right is the expenditures. For the major funds.
And the aquatic center is always funny. Weather plays such a role in it.
Well, and this one was that correction too, where we were able to. I should say in 23 and 24 is when we started doing the allocations with sports sites.
Mhm.
Instead of doing it at the end of the year, we're doing it. Every month.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
so. The next slide, so this one I did update, this one is as of October, since we got the numbers on time this month for October. Our sales tax has come in about 8%, higher than projected. Or not quite 3% over last year. Is basically what these two graphs are saying. On the first one with the multicolors, the purple line is last year, fiscal year 23, and the red line is the current year, fiscal year 24. So we kind of jumped up a little bit there in September, but we came right back down for October. And it looks like my graphics are wrong. The green line should be the, I think the green line, oh yeah,
That's
no,
the
the green
budget.
line's the budget, sorry, I was thinking it was, the red was the budget. The green line is the budget. The one to the right where it says tax trend year to date, so this is just looking at fiscal year over fiscal year 24.
That's where we're up 2.83. Seems like we had 1 month we were up 10%. The others have been.
Yeah,
Two of the four have been below last year. And
yeah,
one
that
just
was
about,
September, yeah.
one about equal. But who knows what's going on?
Yeah, yeah, well, and so the
Legislative.
next slide, I did include this one, this one. The mayor's talked about this several times, so I thought I would include it. The first graph, the first graph talks about the total state, generated sales tax altogether. And then the second one is what the city has generated, the city sales tax. And what I like about this one, I don't know if you could tell, I think it's interesting if we look at the blue line, which is last fiscal year. There in August and September, how it kind of flatlines there. And then if you look down at the city for that same time frame, which is that lighter gray, it kind of dips a little bit. And so I want to know what people were out buying if they weren't buying in Wisconsin. That's how I look at that. I'm like, oh, they were out doing something else.
And I think,
Wonder what
refresh
that
my
was.
memory, I think the allocation is, we get half of the actual sales tax spent in the city.
Yes,
And then we get an allocation of everything that's in the state based upon population.
yes.
That was very helpful the way you put that in the report, January.
So what's spent in the whole state does have a, well, you can see it's
Yeah.
basically 70% of the sales tax we get is from allocation of the state.
And just one clarification for those who are going to watch this on YouTube later, the half that we get for being spent in the city is not the half of the 7.85%. It's the half of the 1% that's the local sales tax money. Yeah. I didn't want someone to say, well, 40% and
So they're trying to equalize cities that don't generate as much with cities that generate more.
We call it the Riverdale law.
Yeah.
Population of 9,000, but their sales tax is like on a city of 50 for 100,000.
Yeah.
On car dealerships and all that.
And more coming.
And then that bottom graph just reflects that we do get about 30%. Or I should say 30% is what the city's portion and then the rest of the state portion. So
Yeah, interesting.
that's all I have. Finance department update, we're just looking towards the fiscal year 2025 budget season. I don't really have any other items for the next meeting as of right now, other than the quarterly reports. I did look to see if we are doing the fraud risk assessment, which looks like that will be due, so that might be something to review. And then I'm also looking at some other policies to be updating and or introducing.
You know, maybe at that point in time, we will be into budgeting. We have the next meeting in March. And, you know, we have 2 new council members. Coming on. So I've asked all the city council members to submit to me what they think their priorities are, so we can match the budget with the agreed upon priorities of the council. So, we can maybe at least share those with you.
The two members of this particular committee that are
Yeah.
to exchange out.
That's right. So maybe we can give an update on what those priorities are and get your feedback and see if there's anything that, you know, you feel could be added.
Is the one staying on as a citizen?
We haven't made that decision yet.
I just.
He'd love to. I'm
Request.
sure. Yeah, he'd probably love to, but at some point in time, he's gonna let go a little bit. Anything else, Jamie?
Anything else, sir?
Did we want to actually pick a date in March?
I was gonna ask if we have a date.
It's the, what is it, the last Thursday of.
Do we want to do March or February?
Probably March.
March.
But I thought we had a time when it was basically set on, the third
Third
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
23rd.
So, March of 2024, we'd be
Oh.
meeting on the 21st. That'd be right,
Right year.
March 21st. Well, why don't we have Ryan send out the whole calendar year dates? John,
Yep.
I think it's that third Thursday.
The 21st.
That's what I show. Is that what you've got? That third Thursday in March of 2024? Okay, Bryce, you want to give us your update?
So I have slides here if you guys want them. There's not a whole lot of information, but there's some, so. But the last time I was here, I think I just barely talked about that we'd be purchasing some treasury bills for the city. Those treasury bills have now matured. So we ended up buying a total of $8,337,000 or $425 worth of treasury bills.
Were they purchased in these 3 blocks? Is that what's in
Yeah, so they were 3 separate bills. We got back total 8.5 million from those investments, which is a total yield of $162,574.85. From those 3 bills from last year, which is pretty good. The rates were always a little bit higher than what they are in the PTIF, and I didn't talk about the PTIF in this, but it is in the financial statements from the interest earned from that. If you have questions, we can get the numbers from there. But these were just additional investments that we took part in and did ourselves. So our plan for this year, I haven't bought any new treasury bills because we're working on investing with meter investments for some longer term investments. So we're hoping to invest starting with $3 million into some longer term things, so we can take advantage of these high rates that we have right now. So those investments would be, they'd go into treasuries, U.S. government agencies, different funds approved by the Money Management Council. So in meter investments is a approved organization from the Money Management Act. And so they would help us to diversify our portfolio, create some longevity in investments,
And keep it safe.
and keep it safe.
So they came and presented to us, right?
So they did, yep,
Yeah.
yep. And we haven't invested just yet. I've been trying to get through the paperwork that's involved with it. But we should be ready very soon to get that going.
The rates are falling.
Yeah,
1 year's gone from like 550 to 485. So
What
around
did you
six-
get on these 3 here?
You said,
as far as the rates on them,
Yeah.
they were
you said
four,
525.
I think they were
Oh,
high
treasuries.
fours,
Oh,
and low fives on them.
Yeah, and all that.
I can't remember specifically.
Yeah, on CDs and stuff and still out there. But treasuries are falling when the treasuries are falling to
Yeah,
485.
So Bryce, these yield numbers, are these annual amounts?
No, those were just from the one-time maturity of the bills.
Like some of them were 3 months, 6 months. So this,
Oh,
the 8.3 wasn't, because otherwise you come in at about a 195, right?
Yeah.
So some of these were 3 months, the whole.
So these were just short-term T-bills?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and that's always another option too, is once we get going with meter, if we choose to, if we know we have projects that are a distance off, we can invest those funds in hopes to gain some interest money for projects or different things. But those will be more of a base by base type thing as we get going more.
Yeah, they have a good program that matches it on cash flows. So, and matches up the duration with.
Asset liability management,
Yeah.
good stuff.
So you come up with a plan and then the council approves, I presume? Or
So
you don't do that? You don't
I didn't
have to?
actually come up with, me and the mayor came up with this initial plan for the treasuries.
Yeah.
For the new plan for meter, they actually came up with a plan and we did present it to the council already.
So you got some green light going, yeah.
I can't remember, were there several different investment firms that we were looking at? Because there's only so many that.
So I reached out to 3 different firms and I heard back, and I met with 2 of them. The third one I could never hear back from. But the 2 that I did hear back from, Meter had the lower rate
And more experience.
and more experience. They are a growing company in Utah. The other company did have more, but the the rep for Meter is from the other company, and so he's very confident that they'll gain a bunch
Was
of.
it 47 other cities? I can't remember the exact number. But they have a lot of governmental clients.
I don't think it was that high, but they did have quite a few others. They had, like, I know he has Farmington, one of the counties in Salt Lake. There were quite a few, but I don't think it was quite 40.
I
He's
thought it
hoping to
was.
get there though.
We'll have to look at that because
I think he had 40 when he was with the other company.
Quite a portfolio.
And those that were reached out to are the ones that are approved by the state to
That's-
handle
Yeah.
public funds.
Public funds,
Yeah.
because they're very specific.
So it's not like we can open it up to any investor in the state.
Hey, I'm gonna go with Fidelity.
What's their fee?
The fee was 8 basis point,
It's pretty low.
I think.
Less than 1%.
Oh, yeah, substantially.
So-
It was, in fact, I had to double check with him, having double check because it looked so
Yeah,
long.
8 basis points.
Less than 1/10.
You probably don't have that in your 401k.
Oh, no.
Mm-mm.
Okay, anything else, Bryce?
I think that's all I have.
So we haven't got any investments with them yet.
No, not yet. And I've held off on treasuries, well, for a couple of reasons. One, I've been waiting for this to come. And 2, I've been a little hesitant with where the US government was for a minute. But I think we're back. So,
Well, we're all,
Okay.
we're all the herd of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we got bigger fish to fry if that happens.
yeah.
Okay, John, anybody online back with us?
We do have, Ron Stewart is online, the auditor.
Very good.
Does he have anything he'd like to say or?
I'm sure. I'm gonna promote him to a panelist. So, well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna allow him to talk because I'm sure looks lovely, but we probably don't need his face as much as we need his voice. So Ron, we can hear you. Maybe. Oh, you just muted yourself, Ron. Thought we were getting. Let me try promoting him to a panelist and see if that will get him in easier. Let me check our. Oh,
The other thing you've seen, Randy, is a
Let me
lot
try
like
again.
our radios and our police cars are not being supported anymore. So
Ron, try talking again.
we've had to
What does that
replace
mean?
those.
They're supported by who?
Manufacturer.
Oh,
And our body camera, all these things are now being substantially upgraded and unsupported. Chris knows his son, so.
Huh. See. No, Ron can mute and unmute himself, but we're not getting any sound from him.
Okay, while you're trying to fix that, we'll see what Chris has. Did you have additional public comments? Now would be the time.
Sure. I just appreciate the new graphs, to be honest. I'm trying to get those for 2 years, well, whatever I've been on it. And then the pension thing, the one thing that Parker mentioned, since all they do is they plug a check from the US. There's no manipulation, it's just all from the state. So
It's your favorite
It's-
figure.
He's like, there's no rhyme or reason to what they present. It's what their numbers are. So I'm like,
I hope somebody's
interesting.
interesting, because this is weird.
I'm sure we could get their audited statement online.
And then just, and I didn't know, we were talking, Amanda was talking about the Christmas stuff. I was there handing out cookies yesterday with, it was massive. I don't know if anybody was there yesterday. It was, because I was there from like 6:30 to
Right, my house.
8, and we were nonstop, so.
And they passed out 1,000 cookies last night.
Morgan was saying. "I
Normally,
have
we
to
did the
talk to
whole
the
thing,
mayor."
2,500 last year.
So, and then I was able to talk to Justin too, and I didn't realize he does those. That's your pool guy. So,
He expanded his responsibilities.
yeah, so it was good to talk to those folks. I didn't realize that, she's the organizer of all those things. I mean, she did the Halloween thing, and I was surprised that, I mean, that was enormous too, so.
Well,
Some
we
of the
used to
stuff
have
that,
a,
was that,
we used to have a, what was it? What was the?
Events coordinator.
Events coordinator that was benefits and stuff was about 70 something, wasn't it, John?
Mm-hmm.
With benefits, and we thought, there might be a better way to do that. We're gonna try it out and see. So we went with a independent contractor, which is Morgan, for 25 grand.
she's
And frankly, she's done an outstanding job.
she's like the type A.
And I would tell you, just from my perspective too, we reorganized parks. I think our parks have been as good or better than they have been.
Yeah, so I mean, we didn't get to see the reindeer because we were handing out cookies so much, but there was reindeer there, and like real reindeer, not like fake with the little.
No,
And
really.
a camel for the, I guess that's the same people that did.
Just
the
a
reindeer.
family again.
Hunt family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing was, and this is for the whole amphitheater thing, more chairs. That's what she said, and I was like, oh, right. But.
Yeah, the area was pretty well filled.
Yeah, but I guess the hunt, they had to bring up chairs or something, I guess, but that'd be the only thing that we could.
How much do we pay for that, and how much do they contribute?
The hunts,
Yeah,
I think they do that free, don't they, John?
Yeah, we just give them a key to the building, and then we have some rules that they need to follow because of that many people could, damage carpet stuff. But all of the city money goes into the Santa cookies and that area, although the cookies were all donated this
we don't put
year.
up the chairs even and stuff.
The Hunt family puts them up.
Wow.
Yep.
They really.
Lindy Best makes
I was
a
gonna
pretty
say, Lindy
substantial
Best was,
contribution too.
Yeah.
She did the reindeer.
We do the light, the lights, that's kind of where we're emphasizing.
Somebody ought to give them an attaboy in the mayor's message or something, because that's a big thing they contribute.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of been a win-win for them because they love having people view it, but this has been like the biggest venue that they've been able to put together. So more people are able to see what they have invested in and what they're doing. So it's really kind of, I think it's fun for them
We
too.
used to do it at the county,
Yeah.
the county.
I just wouldn't wanna-
County kicked them out.
Wouldn't want to be one of those bare-legged Roman soldiers, as cold as it was last year.
It was warmer this year.
It was more
It's
this
quite
year.
nice out there now.
Any luck, John? Anything else? Chris? Thank you for that report.
It shows Ron is unmuted again.
Seem to say something.
Hello?
I've got the sound running through the Optima above your heads, which is usually the most reliable. Like these others.
He's able to hear you, huh?
Can you see him, John?
No, his camera is not on.
Maybe he could give you a thumbs up if he could hear us.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
not
well,
sure.
We'll see if there's any comments. Jamie, do you have anything else?
Yeah, thank you.
Bryce?
No.
Committee members?
Just commend Jamie and Bryce and the job they did this year. It's mentioned to the mayor earlier, it's a far cry from a couple of years ago, so very well done. Thank you for serving the city so well.
Well, it's a lot easier just to keep it going than to get it there to start with. Isn't it? Yeah. So,
I think we're caught
Keep
up
up the
on
good
most
work.
things.
yeah.
And so it's just
We got work
moving forward.
in progress on the fixed asset registry now and depreciating.
Always a goal ahead, huh?
Always a goal ahead.
What you want,
More
right?
to do.
Well, John, I don't think it's efficient to have everybody kind of waiting around to see if we can hear from him.
We can see if we can invite him back to, next month to council or something, if he's got time.
We don't have to approve this audit report to submit to the state, right?
No, we just have to have a signature, and then it usually, actually, most cities actually do it in January. They have the auditor come and present to the council.
The other thing is we get our reporting on time. We were several years late.
Time.
We're getting our report in.
That's true too.
So we're appreciative of the auditor's help us there, so. All right, well, if there's nothing else, it doesn't look like we're gonna make connections. But we will get the auditor, and Jamie, if you get those questions.
Yes. we'll do.
I'll move that we adjourn if that's appropriate.
Would be appropriate.
And second.
All right, motion second. It's a non-objectable motion, so we'll call this.
It's normally my job, but I guess I'm.
And I'd like to thank Councilmember Ekstrom for her service
Yes.
on our committee, and wish her luck as she goes on into the real world now.